If you had told me years ago that the woman I fell in love with, the woman I married, would one day become the person who tried to destroy me, I would have laughed in your face. Because in the beginning, Vanessa was everything I had ever wanted. She was stunning, charismatic, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and immediately have everyone's attention without even trying. She knew exactly what to say, how to say it, and when to flash that perfectly calculated smile that made people hang on her every word. And God, did I fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. From the outside, we were perfect. We traveled, we laughed, we built a life that people envied. But behind closed doors, there were cracks, small ones at first, easy to ignore. Vanessa wasn't just confident, she was controlling. She had a way of making sure the world revolved around her, twisting situations in a way that left no room for anyone else. At first, I convinced myself it was just passion, just her way of showing she cared. But then, there was her relationship with her younger brother, Ryan. Vanessa had practically raised him, or so she liked to remind everyone at every opportunity. She had been his protector, his guide, the one who knew him best. And if that was all it was, maybe things would have been fine. But as Ryan got older, as he started making his own choices, Vanessa started to change. She had an opinion about everything: his career, his social life, and most of all, his relationships. She would casually undermine the women he dated, drop little comments that planted doubts in his mind. "Are you sure she's the one?" she would ask, tilting her head like she was genuinely concerned. "I mean, you two are cute, but I don't know. She just doesn't seem like a good fit." And more often than not, Ryan would listen. Then, Ryan met Lily. She was different, confident, warm. She didn't shrink under Vanessa's scrutiny or seek her approval. People gravitated toward her naturally, and most importantly, Ryan loved her. For the first time, I saw him push back against Vanessa's influence. He didn't second-guess his feelings, didn't let her words twist their way into his head. He was in love, and he wasn't going to let his sister's opinions dictate his life. And Vanessa? She hated her instantly. Oh, she kept up appearances at first, smiling, making polite conversation. But I saw it in her eyes. The way her lips curled ever so slightly when Lily spoke. The way she made pointed jokes about Ryan's exes. The way her compliments felt like veiled insults. It was subtle, but the message was clear. Vanessa wasn't just being protective. She was being territorial, and she wasn't going to let Lily take what she believed was hers. If you think that was bad, just wait. This story only gets worse from here. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Reddit True Vault so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, you won't believe where this goes. At first, Vanessa's disdain for Lily was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone who didn't know her well. She never openly insulted her, never outright voiced her disapproval. Instead, she wielded her words like a scalpel, making small, precise incisions meant to wound without drawing too much blood. She had perfected the art of the backhanded compliment, the kind that seemed harmless on the surface but left an unmistakable sting. "She's cute, I guess," Vanessa had said the first time she met Lily. Ryan always did have a thing for the quiet, unassuming type. It was meant to sound like an observation, but the implication was clear: Lily was dull, unimpressive. It wasn't the last time she would make such comments. Whenever Ryan and Lily weren't around, Vanessa would casually bring up his ex-girlfriends. She painted them in the most flattering light, reminiscing about how fun and spontaneous they were, how well they fit into the family. "Do you remember Jessica?" she'd ask me, her tone wistful. She was so adventurous. She and Ryan were always going on trips, trying new things. It's a shame it didn't work out. Or, God, Ryan and Sarah were such a power couple. She really had her life together, you know? A real go-getter. She never outright said Lily was a bad match for Ryan. She didn't have to. She let the comparisons do the work for her. Then came the proposal. Ryan had planned an intimate dinner to ask Lily to marry him. Just the two of them. A private moment filled with love. Vanessa, however, acted like she had been personally betrayed. She stormed into our bedroom that night, pacing furiously as she ranted about how unfair it was that she had to hear the news from someone else. "I should have been the first to know," she spat, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Ryan always told me everything before. And now what? He just decides to propose and doesn't even run it by me." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Vanessa, it's his proposal. He doesn't need your approval," she scoffed. "That's not the point, Ethan. The point is, I'm his sister. I should be the first person he tells. Not some random group text, not some family announcement. Me, I wanted to tell her how ridiculous she sounded, but I had learned long ago that arguing with Vanessa when she was like this was pointless. She didn't want logic. She wanted control. Her resentment only grew as the wedding planning began. She inserted herself into every conversation, making her opinions known whether they were wanted or not. She criticized the venue, the flowers, the seating arrangement. Nothing was ever good enough. It just seems so simple, she said one day, wrinkling her nose at the wedding invitations. I always pictured something more elegant for Ryan. This feels kind of basic. Ryan brushed off her comments, but I could see the exhaustion on his face. He was trying to keep the peace, trying to make her feel included without letting her bulldoze his fiancée. Lily, to her credit, handled Vanessa with grace. She never snapped, never took the bait, but I knew it must have worn on her. Then came the wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful, romantic, heartfelt, filled with love. Guests wiped away tears as Ryan and Lily exchanged vows, promising each other forever. But Vanessa? Vanessa arrived wearing a floor-length black gown, a sheer veil draped over her shoulders, looking as though she were attending a funeral rather than her brother's wedding. People whispered. I saw the side glances, the uncomfortable shifting in seats. If Vanessa noticed, she didn't care. She moved through the reception like a grieving widow, sighing dramatically, shaking her head as if mourning some great loss. When guests approached her, she would place a delicate hand over her heart and murmur, "It's just hard, losing him like this. It doesn't feel real, losing him." It was then that I realized something that sent a chill down my spine. Vanessa didn't just dislike Lily. She saw her as a thief, as someone who had stolen her most precious possession. And she wasn't going to let it go. Vanessa had always been possessive, but after Ryan and Lily's wedding, her obsession took on a new intensity. She didn't just resent Lily, she despised her. And when Lily announced her pregnancy, Vanessa unraveled. It happened at a small family gathering, a simple dinner where everyone was relaxed, enjoying each other's company. Lily was glowing, her hand resting protectively over her stomach, the excitement evident in her voice as she shared the news. Ryan beamed with pride, his arm wrapped around her shoulders, and the room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Everyone, except Vanessa. I watched as her expression froze, the smile on her lips turning brittle. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her wine glass until her knuckles turned white. She blinked rapidly, as if trying to process what she had just heard, and then, without a word, she stood up and walked out. No congratulations, no fake pleasantries, just cold, stunned silence before she disappeared down the hall. I found her in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, her head in her hands. I hesitated before stepping inside, not sure what I was about to walk into. "Vanessa," I said cautiously. She lifted her head, and I was taken aback by the raw emotion in her eyes. Anger, hurt, something close to betrayal. "It should have been me," she whispered. I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "I was supposed to be the first one to have a baby. I was supposed to give mom and dad their first grandchild. Not her." I stared at her, not knowing what to say. This wasn't normal jealousy. This was something deeper, something uglier. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa spiraled. She became fixated on Lily's pregnancy, stalking her Instagram like it was a full-time job. I would wake up in the middle of the night and find her sitting in bed, her phone screen illuminating her face, scrolling through Lily's posts. "She's just flaunting it," she muttered one night, not even looking at me as I sat up beside her. "Every single picture is just, look at this. Baby's first kicks, like she's the only woman on earth who's ever been pregnant." I sighed. "Vanessa, she's excited. That's normal," she scoffed. "It's not normal. It's excessive. It's like she wants to rub it in my face." I wanted to argue, to tell her she was being irrational, but I knew it wouldn't matter. She had already convinced herself that Lily was deliberately trying to hurt her. Then came the rumors. It started subtly. Little comments Vanessa would drop into conversation when she was with family. "Lily's been acting really strange lately," she'd say, lowering her voice as if sharing some deep concern. "I don't know. I just get this feeling that something's off." Then it escalated. "Ryan works so much. I hope Lily isn't feeling neglected. I mean, pregnancy hormones can make women do crazy things." And finally, I hate to say it, but I don't think she's as happy as she pretends to be. I mean, I heard from a friend that she was seen having lunch with some guy last week. I don't want to assume anything, but I just hope Ryan doesn't get hurt. She was poisoning them against Lily, planting doubts, spinning lies, and the worst part? Some people actually listened. I tried to reason with her, but she brushed me off. I'm just looking out for my brother, she said sweetly, as if she wasn't actively trying to ruin his marriage. That's when I started to worry. Really worry. Vanessa had always been dramatic, always had a flair for control, but this was different. This was obsession. And I was starting to realize that there was nothing she wouldn't do to get what she wanted. Ryan's promotion party was meant to be a celebration, a night of joy, laughter, and family. The house was filled with the warm hum of conversation, clinking glasses, and bursts of laughter. People congratulated Ryan, patting him on the back, while Lily stood beside him, beaming with pride. It was the kind of gathering that felt effortless, where everyone was in good spirits. Well, almost everyone. Vanessa had been unusually composed all evening. Too composed. From the moment we arrived, she was all smiles, greeting everyone with a warmth that felt unnatural coming from her. She floated through the party, engaging in polite small talk, laughing at jokes, offering drinks, and making a show of how thrilled she was for Ryan. To anyone else, she seemed like a doting sister, someone who had finally come to terms with Ryan's life and choices. But I knew better. I had seen the way she had been unraveling over the past few months, the way her resentment toward Lily had festered into something dark and twisted. And now, after weeks of barely speaking to her, she was suddenly being kind? Something about it felt wrong. And then, Vanessa did something even more unexpected. She approached Lily with a plate of food. I know things have been tense between us, she said, her voice smooth, saccharine, carefully controlled. And honestly, I just want to put all of that behind us. I've been awful, and I regret it. You're going to be the mother of my niece or nephew, and I don't want to hold on to any more negativity. Lily hesitated, clearly caught off guard. Oh, that's really nice of you, Vanessa. Vanessa smiled, holding out the plate. I made this myself. It's one of my favorite dishes, and I really wanted to share it with you. Consider it my way of making amends. I watched, my stomach twisting into knots. Vanessa never cooked. Ever. Lily took the plate, but before she could even lift her fork, she frowned. Oh, I actually can't eat this. I'm allergic to shrimp. For the briefest second, I saw something flicker across Vanessa's face. Shock, disappointment, panic. It was gone almost instantly, replaced by a carefully neutral expression. Oh, wow. I had no idea, she said with an easy laugh, brushing it off like it was nothing. I'm so sorry about that. She reached for the plate, as if to take it back, but before she could, I spoke up. I'll take it. I wasn't thinking. I just didn't want to make things awkward. The moment had already drawn enough attention, and I figured the easiest way to diffuse it was to just eat the damn food myself. So I did. The first few bites were fine. The dish was rich, flavorful, and well-seasoned, shockingly good for someone who rarely cooked. I even made a comment about how maybe Vanessa had been hiding some secret culinary skills. She laughed, and for a moment, I actually believed that maybe, just maybe, she really had turned over a new leaf. But then, it hit me. It started as a strange, unsettling feeling in my gut, a slow churn that made me pause mid-conversation. The room suddenly felt off, like the air had grown heavier, pressing against my chest, making it harder to breathe. I reached for my glass of water, trying to push past the discomfort, but my hands were shaking. Something was wrong. A sharp pain twisted through my stomach, so sudden and intense that I doubled over, clutching my abdomen. My vision blurred at the edges, the sounds around me distorting into a distant, echoing hum. I heard someone call my name, Lily, Ryan, but it felt like they were miles away. The pain worsened, spreading through my body like fire, my head pounding, my skin clammy with sweat. I tried to stand, but the room tilted violently, my legs buckling beneath me. And then, everything went black. The last thing I heard before the darkness swallowed me whole was the sound of Lily screaming. I woke up to the steady beeping of a heart monitor and the sterile scent of antiseptic filling my lungs. The room was dimly lit, the fluorescent lights above casting an eerie glow on the white hospital walls. My body felt heavy, sluggish, as if I had been submerged in water for hours. A dull, persistent ache radiated from my stomach, but it was nothing compared to the weight pressing down on my chest. What had happened? Before I could even gather my thoughts, I heard a sharp intake of breath. Turning my head slightly, I saw Lily sitting at the edge of my hospital bed, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed and glassy. Ryan stood beside her, arms crossed tightly over his chest, his jaw clenched. I had never seen him look so furious. Ethan, Lily whispered, her voice trembling with relief. Oh my God, you're awake. I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat was raw, parched. Ryan quickly grabbed a cup of water from the bedside table, bringing it to my lips. The cool liquid soothed the burning sensation, but it did nothing to ease the suffocating tension in the room. What happened? I managed to croak. Ryan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. You were poisoned, Ethan. His voice was tight, restrained, like he was barely keeping his anger in check. You collapsed at the party. The paramedics said it was some kind of toxin, something that was deliberately put into your food. A chill ran down my spine. Poisoned? My mind reeled, grasping at fragmented memories. The party, the laughter, Vanessa's sudden warmth, the plate of food, Lily refusing it, me taking it instead, and then darkness. My stomach twisted, not just from the lingering nausea, but from something far worse. A realization, a creeping, horrifying certainty that I already knew who was responsible. Lily hesitated before speaking, her hands gripping the sheets tightly. Ethan, it was Vanessa. I felt my breath hitch. No, I said automatically, shaking my head. No, that can't be. Ryan's expression darkened. There's security footage, he said bitterly. Vanessa was caught on camera in the kitchen. She made that plate herself, Ethan, and before she brought it out, she mixed something into it. I stared at him, my pulse hammering in my ears. I wanted to deny it, to insist there had to be some mistake, but deep down, I knew. I had known for a long time that something was wrong with Vanessa. I had ignored the red flags, brushed aside the unease, convinced myself that her jealousy was nothing more than petty insecurity. But this was something else entirely. Before I could respond, the door swung open. My parents-in-law stepped inside, their faces lined with exhaustion. And then, Vanessa. Her eyes were red and swollen, her normally pristine appearance disheveled. The second she saw me awake, she burst into tears. Ethan, she sobbed, rushing toward my bed. Oh my God, I was so scared, I thought. Ryan stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Save it, he snapped. We know what you did. Vanessa froze, her expression shifting in an instant. Her gaze darted around the room, as if searching for an escape. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, voice trembling. Lily stood, her voice steady but cold. We saw the footage, Vanessa. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then, Vanessa broke. Her shoulders sagged, and she let out a shuddering breath, her carefully constructed mask crumbling before our eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to be Ethan. It was supposed to be her. The words sent a fresh wave of nausea crashing over me. Vanessa's voice wavered. I just wanted her to suffer. Just for a little while. Just so she'd know what it feels like to have everything taken away from her. Lily let out a sharp breath, her hands clenching into fists. So you poisoned me? Vanessa flinched. It wasn't poison, she insisted, her voice almost desperate. It was just something to make you sick. Just a stomachache, that's all. I wasn't trying to. I didn't want. She choked on her words, shaking her head violently. I didn't mean for Ethan to eat it. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, but none of it mattered. She had done it. She had taken her hatred and turned it into something vile, something that could have killed me. And in the end, all she could say was that she hadn't meant to. But the truth was clear, she had. The silence in the hospital room was suffocating. The weight of Vanessa's confession hung in the air like a thick fog, suffused with disbelief, betrayal, and something darker, finality. She had admitted it. She had poisoned my food, meant for Lily, out of sheer resentment. She had wanted Lily to suffer, to feel even a fraction of the pain she had convinced herself was hers to bear. But she had failed. And now, she would face the consequences. Ryan was the first to speak. His voice was eerily calm, but there was a sharp edge beneath it, like a blade held just before the plunge. You're done, Vanessa, he said, his tone devoid of any warmth, any trace of the brother who had once adored her. We're done. Vanessa's eyes widened in desperation. Ryan, please, she whispered, stepping toward him, reaching out as if she could pull him back into her grasp. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. You know I love you. I've always looked out for you. No. Ryan cut her off, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought he might crack a tooth. You've never looked out for anyone but yourself. Lily stood beside him, her arms wrapped protectively around her stomach, shielding the life growing inside her from the venomous presence in the room. Stay away from us, she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging in her eyes. You're not part of our family anymore. Vanessa let out a choked sob, turning toward me, her last lifeline. Ethan, she pleaded, her voice breaking. You, please, you have to understand. I wasn't thinking straight. I was jealous. Yes, but I love you. I love you so much. Love? The word felt like poison on her lips, hollow and meaningless. Love didn't twist into resentment. Love didn't fester into something so dark and vindictive that it led to attempted poisoning. Love didn't seek to destroy. I took a slow, steady breath. The moment of clarity I had been too blind to see for years finally struck me with full force. Vanessa had never truly loved me. She had loved control. She had loved power. And now that she had lost both, she was scrambling to keep me tethered, desperate to sink her claws in one last time. I wouldn't let her. I want a divorce, I said firmly, watching as her face crumbled. The second I'm out of here, I'm filing the papers. We're done, Vanessa. For good. No, 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 she gasped, shaking her head violently, as if denying it could make it untrue. She clutched her stomach, her last desperate attempt at salvation. Ethan, please. I'm pregnant. Our baby. Don't do this to our child. The room went dead silent. Ryan's fists clenched at his sides, his eyes narrowing. Lily's grip on his arm tightened. Even Vanessa's parents, who had been silent until now, looked at their daughter with something I had never seen before: disgust. No one believed her, not after everything. I exhaled, my voice steady, unwavering. Even if that's true, I will never forgive you for what you did. And I will never let you use a child to manipulate me. Tears streamed down her face, but they were meaningless now. The final act was over. Vanessa was arrested later that day. Vanessa's trial was swift. With the undeniable evidence from the security footage and her own confession, the verdict was inevitable: guilty. She was sentenced to prison, and just like that, the woman who once thrived on control lost every last shred of power she had. No more manipulation, no more deceit. Just cold, hard reality. Her parents, once blind to her faults, refused to visit her. Ryan never spoke her name again. Lily, the woman she had tried so hard to destroy, flourished. And me? I walked away, free for the first time in years. The divorce was finalized within months. Signing those papers felt like shedding a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying for so long. Vanessa had once been the center of my world, but now, she was nothing more than a cautionary tale, a lesson learned the hard way. Ryan and Lily moved forward, stronger than ever. Their child was born a few months after Vanessa's sentencing, a beautiful baby girl named Emma. Seeing them together, watching Ryan hold his daughter with pure joy in his eyes, it was clear: love built on trust and respect would always triumph over envy and control. As for me, I finally understood something I had ignored for far too long. Some people don't change. No matter how much you love them, no matter how many chances you give them, some relationships are destined to end. And that's okay. Walking away isn't weakness, it's survival. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if there was ever a version of Vanessa that could have been saved, if things could have been different. But the truth is, it doesn't matter anymore. I have my life back. I have peace. And that is worth more than any toxic love ever could be. If there's one thing you take from my story, let it be this: never ignore the red flags. Never let someone's manipulation blind you to the truth. And most importantly, never be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve you. What would you have done in my situation? Could you have seen it coming? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy real-life stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Reddit True Vault for more shocking, unbelievable tales happening all around us. Until next time, stay safe and trust your instincts.